Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Stocking the Essential Toolbox for Today's Teacher. This session is part of a series of free webinars offered every week or two by Spark. Spark is an information technology center in Northeast Ohio, where we support about 30 school districts. However, this webinar is open to everyone, and we would like to welcome all the people who have joined us live today who are watching the recording in the future. My name is Anthony Luscre, and I am a Technology Integration Specialist at Spark, and I will be your presenter today. Along with my colleague, Eric Kurtz, we make up the Spark Technology Integration Department. Materials for our department are located at ti.apps.sparkcc.org, and that'll take you to our main technology integration site, which will allow you to see a wide variety of items that we're doing as far as professional development goes. All of the information for today's webinar can be found at tiny.cc/spark, SPARCC 211. I would encourage you to go to that site if you have not already done so. If you're watching a recorded version, please pause so you can go to the site to download today's handouts and resources. tiny.cc/spark211 will take you out to our technology integration site. There you will find the live video stream, which will become the recorded video after this session, help guides, resources, and a live session chat document. If you're watching this live, please feel free to put questions or comments there. Eric is monitoring that document today, and we will cover items if you put them there. There's also a session evaluation. We would really appreciate you filling this out. And finally, there's a quiz available. If you take the quiz and pass the quiz, you will earn a certificate of attendance for 1 contact hour. While you're on the site, please be sure to check out upcoming webinars, recorded webinars of past, and also sign up for our Sparklines newsletter to always stay up to date with our latest tech integration information, including our webinar schedule. And finally, if you need to get in touch with us, you can find our contact information under the contact menu link. We'll be sharing the screen today, and we're just going to start going through a presentation here. I'll be jumping back and forth between the presentation and a variety of resources that are linked from the presentation. Before we start the presentation, just want to make you aware that throughout the document, there are hyperlinks. Not all the hyperlinks are in blue, and not all of them are underlined. They're usually a contrasting color to the rest of the text on the page. So I'll point some of those out as we go along. But if you have, if you're looking at the document by yourself, please feel free to click on the various links to go to different things. Today's agenda, we're going to look at professional learning networks. We're going to look at website pages and page creation and editing software. We're going to look at tools for collaboration and sharing storage. We're going to look at software sites for a variety of software tools, including PDF creation, compressing and uncompressing zip files, and creating shortened URLs, such as the one we're using today, the tiny.cc/spark211. We're going to also look at classroom management tools. We'll talk briefly about video and audio conferencing and the ability to record, edit video and audio files, and even create a webinar like today's if you'd like. We'll also be talking about advanced web searching techniques. We'll give you some quality resources on the web, including simulations and Web 2.0 tools and apps. And finally, we'll tie everything together with a all-in-one multi-tool, aka a teacher resource site. So let's just start out here. Instead of a little comic today, we have a nice set of candy for you to look at, and you can start salivating now. So let's start our shopping list so we can fill our toolbox. Anytime we have to do jobs around the house, we probably have a toolbox that might have some screwdrivers and wrenches and things in it. And it's the same sort of thing as a teacher. Now, a few years back, all that was really needed by a teacher was maybe some chalk, some pencils, some paper, and erasers, and that was pretty much it. We might also have some textbooks, but the teacher toolbox has grown vastly as we've went into the digital age. So the first thing we want to talk about is one or more professional learning networks. We're going to talk about learning management systems. And we've sort of covered these all under our agenda, so I'll just skip ahead a little bit here until we get to the first one. Our first item is professional learning network. This is probably the most important one, so that's why I made it number one. And this is a way that you can make connections with other educators. You can build relationships with them. You can share materials. You can ask advice, give advice, and you always have someone available to answer questions. Now, you may say, well, I have people at my school that I can do that with, and that is part of your learning network, but it's very valuable to have an online learning network so that you can tap into people that may be teaching the exact same subject area as you, or in a school setting similar to yours. The learning part of the professional learning network is about sharing ideas and resources, collaborations and learning, sharing different ideas for lesson plans, your expertise in teaching different parts of lessons, assessment materials, etc. The essence is the same, but the professional learning network is simply the best PD that you will ever participate in because it's available 24/7. And finally, what is the network part of the professional learning network? Defining this feature of the professional learning network is that it is a global learning network enabling people to tap in and share diverse global perspectives on teaching strategies, educational issues, and technologies. It takes some time and effort to build a good professional learning network, but that time will be very valuable and well spent on your part. So what I've listed first are a couple sites that are good starts for your professional learning network. With these sites alone, you can get a good jump on the whole process. They're ready to go, waiting for you. And I've listed some here that I participated in and some that I know that other people do. Edmodo.com. Some of you may know of Edmodo from the fact that you can use it as a classroom tool for giving assignments and assessments and working with students. But there's a whole nother side to it, and that's the professional learning network side. And actually, if you go back through our recorded webinars, I've previously done a webinar just on Edmodo as a professional learning network. TESS UK is probably one of the largest, if not the largest, group of teacher professional learning networks in the world. Unfortunately, most of the people in the US are not familiar with it. And part of it has to do with the fact, I think, that they use a different set of grades than we do, first primary, upper primary, etc. But once you get past that nomenclature, there's a lot of very valuable resources that you can share with people around the world. And finally, Google+, which we're using part of today as Google Hangouts, is a very invaluable way to provide communities for your professional learning network. There are communities available on Google subjects, but there's also communities available on every type of educational topic available. And then I listed a few more on the page here that you can give a try at. The last one on the page is actually one of the #1 rated professional learning network sites based on people who use them, and that's Pinterest, because a lot of people like the simplicity of it and the ability to just pin things up on their board and share them with other people. As you'll see in the next couple slides, there is no one professional learning network that's perfect for one person, and there's no reason you could not combine multiple ones to make your own personalized professional learning network. So our next slide has DIY on it, do it yourself, and I have a little link here from EduBlogs that talks just about that very fact on how you put together different sites, different tools, etc., to develop your own personalized professional learning network. A couple other things that you may want to take a look at are Twitter chat. You can follow a large number of educators who might be specialists in your field. They might be involved in technology. So please take a look out there and see what type of Twitter chats you may want to follow. The EJO and YouTube. There's also blogs and websites, a lot of educational blogs and websites, also some educational technology sites with information on technology in the news. So let's just flip real quick to that site to give you an idea of what that looks like. Again, it's available from our ti.apps.spark.org. I'm going to go to the teacher links and information resources. And you see across the top here, one of them says educational news. Now, this is not just the professional learning network, but as part of your professional learning network, it's very important that you keep a handle on what's going on in the news, in the education field, in the technology field. So I've provided a number of links that you may want to follow daily, weekly, monthly, etc. The last thing I want to talk about, one of the things I want to talk about with professional learning networks is you don't want to just be a passive person. You want to get connected. And that means putting yourself out there. You need to make sure that others know that you're there also. You need to find what works best for you. When you are participating in a professional learning network, it's very important that you follow up on questions or comments or suggestions from other people so that it's a two-way conversation. One important thing is to keep looking for new innovative ways to connect. A few years ago, Twitter wasn't available. Google Hangouts was not available. So these are just two examples of tools that came around recently that are very innovative ways to connect. And finally, be prepared to collaborate, put out some of your information. So I've just got a little summary here of creating your professional learning network. So we'll close the professional learning network and we'll move on to learning management systems. Now, sometimes you'll also hear these referred to as course management systems. They're both very similar. There's a huge number of choices out there and a wide variety, both free and commercial products that are available to you. I've listed a couple here. There's some of the main ones that you probably may have heard of already, or if you have not, they're very popular. There are two free open source learning management systems that are very popular. One is Moodle and one is Sakai. Those require a little bit of work on your end or someone at your school to set those up and get them up and running. There's also commercial services available. Blackboard is probably the most well-known, but there are many, many other commercial ones available. Brain Honey is an example of another one that we use within our consortium. But again, the list is very long. And then there's also versions that have both a free and a commercial version available. Example of that would be Schoology. And then also Blackboard has a free version called Course Sites. So there's a large number of learning management systems out there. And it's very important. You might say, why do I want a learning management system? I'm not teaching an online class. Well, it's a great way to start flipping material in your class. It's a great way to provide your students with assignments in a place that they can find. It's very organized. You can put things in sequential order. You can have them revealed on certain times, so you don't have to wait up until midnight on Sunday to post the assignment for Monday morning. You can have it set up and ready to automatically reveal itself at that point in time. It's a good way to have students turning tests, quizzes, papers, etc. So even if you're doing a fairly traditional classroom, brick and mortar type of class, learning management systems can be invaluable. Now, if you're doing an electronic or digital class, they are an absolute necessity. As I mentioned earlier, Edmodo also has the ability to act as a learning management system for students in addition to the professional learning network aspect that we already mentioned. Number 3, collaboration tools. These are both very new things. Just a few years back, less than 10 years ago, it was very difficult to collaborate. Collaboration usually meant shuffling papers between people, and then when we got a little more sophisticated, we started shuffling emails back and forth with the documents attached to them. One of the problems was when you would send out a document attachment, and then you'd make a change, you'd have to resend out a new version saying, hey, this is the new revised version, and then there'd be the revised version, etc. So by using a collaboration tool such as Google Apps for Education, you can share a document with a group of people. They can view it, they can edit it, they can comment on it, and you have complete control of all those different aspects. But the nicest thing is when you send out a link to a shared document, if something needs to be changed in the future, that means everyone who has a document will have the most up-to-date version of the document. It's also a great way for utilizing the forms that are available in Google Apps to do surveys. formative assessments, public relations. It's a great way to find out, who wants to volunteer to be the parent for the Halloween party, or who's going to bring what treat for the last day of school. So there's a lot of things you can do with these type of tools. And both Google Apps for Education and Microsoft 360 are, for a large part, in many districts, replacing the traditional word processing, spreadsheet, presentation type of software, because they do the same sort of things, and because they're available online, they are useful on almost any type of device. So they do not need to be installed ahead of time. The documents follow the student, so the dog doesn't eat their USB drive, or they don't bring a virus into school on their USB drive, or worse yet, they don't print it out and then ask you to look through it, and it's kind of difficult for you to look through after they printed it out, and it's hard for you to have them make changes on it. Final thing I want to mention about collaboration tools is probably the most useful at an educational level, as opposed to a collaboration level, and that is moving from the tradition of turn in a rough draft, get a grade, turn in a final paper, get a grade. Now, if your students are anything like my son, we won't mention his name, he was more than happy to turn his paper in and get his C and be done. But that's not the way things work in the rest of the world. If your boss gives you an assignment and you turn the paper back in and it's not very good, he doesn't give you a D on it. He hands it back to you and asks you to correct it, and he might have some suggestions. And that's one way in which you can use Google Apps as a two-way collaborative tool. So you move more from the turn it in process to a continuous editing and collaboration process. And you will see your students' language arts abilities grow tremendously when they have an editor as opposed to just a teacher. The fourth item is website, page, and website creation software. Now, the reason why I include number 4 is because you need to be able to share information with your students, your parents, your school, other members of your school, and your community. And your community can now be worldwide. So you need to have a presence on the web. You can do it through some of the professional learning network tools we talked about earlier. You could do it through something like Edmodo. You could do it through your course management system, but you may or may not have that route available to you. So a web page is still a very good way for you as a teacher to provide information to a wide variety of people. Now, many times schools provide a page for teachers. It might be a page that you have editing rights on the district site. There might be building sites. It may be, as I mentioned earlier, be part of the LMS CMS package. There might be a blog page for teachers or for your grade level on the district site. Your district and building may host a web server, or it may be done through an outside service. There are many of those available. So let's talk a little bit about how you would go about creating a website and managing a website. Well, if you're doing it on your own, there's a number of free sites and hosting available. So if your school doesn't host a site for you, there are free sites available that provide hosting. WordPress. You can use your Google Apps account to create and host web pages. Weebly and Wix are 2 commercial products, but they both have free versions. The free versions are very, very capable, and they're extremely simple to use. They are a drag and drop type of builder where you simply grab it, say, I want to put a paragraph here, you drag it over, drop it, type in the paragraph. I want to pull an image in here, pull an image over, click on it, upload your picture, to etc. So they're very easy to use. You may have seen the television commercials for Wix. Weebly doesn't advertise on TV, but it's a very good service. And then there's also a professional version of Weebly available for a nominal fee, and it gives you some additional features, but you do not need to have that. There are also 2 open source softwares available that are very, very good, very, very powerful, but they do require hosting. So you're going to have someone host these for you, whether it's on a school server or another server somewhere. And also, because they're so powerful, they have a fairly high learning curve to them. They're not simply drag and drop. you're going to need to learn a little bit about HTML and programming your websites to really use Drupal or Joomla. Sometimes, though, you just want to create a quick web page. Someone says, hey, do you have a web page I could post on my site? Or I just need an HTML file. So I like to use a free HTML editor called Composer. And I actually use Composer not only to create web pages and edit web pages. Sometimes I use it where I will download an existing web page, and then I will trim that page for the material I want the student to see. And it's still HTML. They can still display it on their browser, but I can alter the page by utilizing Composer. I would then need a place to host it. Our fifth category is shared storage. We already talked a little bit about some of the collaboration tools, and they were cloud-based. So we'll mention them again. Google Drive, Google Apps is a form of cloud-based service. Microsoft OneDrive is, again, a cloud-based storage. And then Apple has Apple iCloud. Amazon has a Cloud Drive. There's Dropbox. There's Cubby. And again, there's many, many more commercial products. Some of the commercial products are very nice, though, because they give you a limited amount of storage for free. Some give you 1 gigabyte. Some give you 5 gigabytes for free. So these free resources are very valuable. And what can you do with these? Well, one thing is, by having your documents there, they're backed up in a safe place. And so you have them on your computer and in your cloud-based storage. That also means, let's say you don't have your computer, you're sitting somewhere where your computer's not at. You can access your cloud-based storage and work with your documents. It's also a great way to move things from home to school and then from school back to home, so you can work on them wherever you're at. That means you don't have to stay there until the janitor comes around and turns all the lights off. You can still busily work on your schoolwork by just putting in the shared storage in the cloud, and then work on it at home or some other place. The beach or maybe a mountain cabin would be my choices. Just need to make sure you have internet accessibility so you can get to the cloud-based service. Some districts are still using local network file servers for storage. So you might have a drive that is designated where you might store information, and your students may also have drives. So when you log onto a computer, you might have a drive that is mapped, such as an S drive for students, or maybe it's a Z drive or whatever letter it might be. Again, that's a local file service, so you would not have access to that in the most cases when you're outside of your school district. Number 6 are tools for creating PDFs and for editing PDFs. They might say, well, why do I need to create a PDF? PDFs have a couple advantages over word processing documents in the fact that because they are an embedded type of document, you do not need to worry that the person at the other end has the same program that you created the word processing document with. You do not need to worry if they have the same fonts. You do not need to worry that they may change the font size, style, shape, paragraph indentations, etc. So what they're seeing is pretty much a fixed document the way you want them to see it. And the most common and the one that was around first is Adobe Acrobat. You notice it's not called Adobe Acrobat Writer, which we often call it. It's actually Adobe Acrobat. The version that's free that a lot of us use is the Adobe Acrobat Viewer. So even though it's called Writer by a lot of people, the true name is just Adobe Acrobat. Unfortunately, it costs some money. And being a cheap person, and as many of you may also be, I like to use a lot of open source or free tools. One of the PDF creators that I like is called Primo PDF, and it's sort of nice because you can either install it on your computer, or B, you can use it online where you simply upload your word processing document and download your PDF file. It's pretty easy to use. Once you install it on your computer, it acts like a printer. So instead of saying I'm going to print to the HP 460, you can say I'm going to print to Primo, and it'll actually save it as a PDF file. It actually doesn't print it anywhere. And I've listed a couple other free ones here. PDF Merge is one I want to mention because it lets you bring multiple documents together. And I also just want to mention that Google Apps and some of the other word processing programs now have the ability to create your PDF file directly from the word processing application. So if you're using Google Apps, if you're using Open Office, if you're using some of the newer versions of Microsoft Office, you can create your PDF directly from that document. But PDFs aren't always from word processing documents, so it's a good idea to have something that you can create PDFs with. Again, if you want to show someone a web page and you don't have a web server, the PDF document is a way that you can capture the material, save it in a format that's set up by you and will be readable by anyone. Number 7, this may sound a little techy, but it's important that you have something to utilize. Sometimes, especially back in the old dial-up days, and I'm old enough to remember those very well, if you want to transport a large file, and even today, a lot of email systems have a limitation on the size of file you can transmit as an attachment. So if you would zip it or compress a file, you can send a very large file in a very small space. And that also means it fits on your USB drive easier, takes up less storage space on your computer, etc. The problem is you need to first create a zip file, and if someone gives you a zip file, you need to be able to uncompress it or unzip it. I keep mentioning zip, but there's actually many different types of file compressions. And one of my favorite tools is called 7-Zip because it does multiple varieties of compression, including the common zip value, but it also does a wide variety. And I won't bore you with all the technical specifications of the various compression tools and compression styles out there. WinZip is a popular program. Again, it is a commercial product that you have to pay for. And then there's a lot of free ones out there. I just included the hamster free zip because I think it just has a great name to it. So there's a lot of free compressing and uncompressing tools. And please take a little bit of time and learn how to use it. Make sure you know where the documents are going when you unzip them. Nothing worse than having someone send you a zip document that has 400 files in it and you unzip it accidentally, and now you have 400 documents scattered throughout your drive. You want to make sure first that you might want to put it in a subdirectory so that you contain all the material. So take a look at it before you unzip it and see what's there. Your zipping tool should let you see what files are there and then choose where you want to unzip it to. Number 8, during this talk I mentioned a couple times tiny.cc/ and then I've given you some more information. Well, URL shorteners are very helpful if you want to read a web address to someone. For example, every Google Doc, part of the name is 43 random characters, and that's only part of the name. So the file is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 characters. So if you had to spell 150 characters out, and by the way, it is case sensitive, and we do use punctuation, it's kind of difficult to read to your students this website you want to go to. So by using a URL shortener, you can simply paste in the URL into the site and then have it click on the tiny button. I like tinyURL because it lets you choose what you want it to be. Now, it has to be something unique, so it can't be something that someone's used before. And tinyCC also lets you manage all the URLs that you've created before. So if you ever want to go back and change the file that's attached to a tiny URL, it's very easy to do it in tinyCC. So that's one of the reasons why I sort of like tinyCC as one of my favorites. This is another very convenient one. It's called GooGL, and it's made by Google, and it's available as an extension for Chrome. I've used that for years. Very good program. It does generate a set of random letters that are case sensitive. So even though it's short, it's still sometimes a little more difficult to describe that to someone. But tiny shortened URLs are very good to read to people. They're also very good if you're going to post them up on the screen. So you see the slide I'm doing right now. If I was doing this in a large presentation room, someone could simply go to one of these links very quickly and be able to get there without me having to read off a long URL. Number 9, classroom management. Now we talked a little about CMSs and LMSs, and we talked a little bit about formative assessments. What I really want to describe here in addition is some of the classroom management tools that you use to actually manage your class in the traditional sense. Now, first I've listed some that have to do with technology like iTalk, Stoneware, NetOp, Dino. These are all computer monitoring software. So you could have multiple students on multiple computers, and from one central computer, teacher computer, you can see their screens. You could share their screens up on the projector. You could provide assessments to them via these. So this is a way to share screens, view screens, make sure the students are on task, on appropriate pages. The next set are what I call behavior or disciplinary type of tools. Many of you may have heard of Class Dojo. It's very popular in the elementary school, where you can simply walk around the room with a tablet or a phone or something, and you can click on the student's name and you can give them positive and negative marks and rewards throughout the day. This one's sort of interesting that uses your phone as a receiver, and then it judges how many decibels of noise there are. It's called "It's Too Noisy in Here." And when it reaches a certain level, it will actually say that on your computer. Your computer will speak and your class will hear it say, "It's too noisy in here." Now, this has some good things and some bad things. I think after a while it would probably work very well, but I think when you first would be utilizing it, some mischievous student might like to hear it happen, so they may make a lot of noise just to hear it happen. There's also another one called Random Students, and there's many more. Some are paid versions, some are free versions, some are web-based, some require to install software on your own. But these are all examples of classroom management tools. Number 10 is video audio conferencing. Now, just a few years back, if you were going to do video conferencing, a lot of people had a video conferencing room where they had a set of fixed equipment, usually rather expensive, quite often using ATM, which if you don't know what ATM, it's sort of like TCP. And if you don't know what TCP is, don't worry, you don't need to know. But it's just a different type of web address. So you would have to go into this room, schedule this room, use the special equipment. The person at the other end would have to have compatible special equipment because not all of it was compatible with each other. And if you wanted to have more than one person join the conversation, you'd have to go through a bridging service. And bridging software and hardware was pretty expensive. So usually you had to reserve a spot on a shared bridge, maybe at your state level or your county level. You could still do that. One of the big advantages of that type of room, what I'll call room type of video conferencing, is the fact that you can get very high definition. You can get extremely good sound. But if you're willing to sacrifice just a little bit of that sound quality and some of the picture quality, there's some excellent, what I call desktop video conferencing tools. And guess what? We're using one at this very time. I'm using Google Hangouts to record this webinar. And if you're watching it live, you're watching a live Google Hangout. And the nice thing about Google Hangouts is it will also create a recording for me when I'm done. So I could create this as a lesson for my students, and I could have it available for the day that the sub's there. Or if there's a snow day, they could watch me via Google Hangout. Skype is a program that is not owned by Microsoft. It is still free. It's a way to, again, to communicate. Apple iChat is yet another way, using FaceTime with your iPhone or your iDevice. And there's some other ones available, Jitsi and Ikago, which I cannot really pronounce properly. It's a Linux-based GNOME browser-based software. So there's available for all of the major types of computers. Some of them are platform agnostic, such as Google Hangout and Skype. Some require iOS devices or Windows devices or work on Linux devices. Now, in addition to being able to do video hangouts or distance learning type of situations, sometimes you just want to record video, or you want to edit video, or you want to create audio files, or you want to create what I call a voiceover file. And that'd be something similar to what I'm doing now. But if I was moving my pointer across the screen and had an arrow and was showing different things on the screen, I could have a voiceover. And if you watch football and you see the little teleprompters where they write with the tool on there and they draw little lines to show you the pass patterns, et cetera, they're very helpful to be able to describe something to a group, because you're not only talking to them, but they're seeing a picture. So you could use Google Hangouts on there. There's a lot of tools available from within Google Hangouts that I'm not really utilizing at this moment. Another one called WeVideo, which is a great online editor. There's a free version. You can also pay for additional space with a professional version. And I've listed a lot more here. I just want to touch on a couple real quick. Audacity is an audio only. In other words, you can record audio with it, but it is a very high quality tool. It lets you do multi-track recording. It lets you do editing. You can edit down to the syllable. So if you tend to do a lot of uhs before you say things, you can actually go in and clean those up. Also, in addition to being able to utilize it as a tool for teaching, it's a great tool for using for learning, where students can say words and then they can listen back to those. And I know some speech teachers who use it for speech, some foreign language teachers who use it for foreign language. You could also even have a student just reading, so they could demonstrate their reading capabilities by utilizing one of these recording softwares. There's also some that are available as extensions for Chrome and other web browsers. There's also some apps available for phones, tablets, Chromebooks, etc. So I've listed some more here. I want to just mention one on the right here called Camtasia. Camtasia is a commercial product, but again, it's a very powerful video and audio editing tool where you can have multiple tracks, you can splice things, you can edit things. It's very powerful. Again, it has a little bit of a learning curve to it, but if you're willing to learn it, it's very good. Now, the same company that makes Camtasia makes a free version that records a little less time and has a lot less features called Jing, J-I-N-G. And Jing is available to quickly grab something from your screen, annotate it, and then share that with someone else. I used it a lot when I was doing computer repairs. It was a way for me to see what was going on or to show someone how to do something without actually having to be there, because I could record a short screen video. So there's Jing, J-I-N-G, and it's a screen recording capture software, but you can also use it as a sound recording device. There's a number of Chrome extensions available. Read Write for Chrome is one of my favorites. I can pop it up, and I don't think you'll be able to see it, but it's up on the top of my screen there, and you might be able to see the toolbar. I'm dragging it down to take a look at. And there's both the commercial version and the paid version. Let's get it out of our way here. And the nice thing is, when you first start out, it's the professional version. If you choose not to purchase the paid version, most of the tools are still available to you for free. And it's a great way to have a recorder for your voice. But even more important, I find it as a very helpful tool when I'm using it to proofread documents that I've written. So if I write a doc with Google Docs, I can simply start Read Write up and let it read back to me. And it's remarkable how many errors I catch that way, because your brain sort of has a tendency, if you're reading it back in your head to proofread, your brain sort of fills in what you thought you said you wrote. So it's not very easy to do your own proofreading. But with something being read to you, you very quickly notice the homophones that are wrong, or when you forgot to put apostrophe S and just put S. So if you walk by my office or Eric's office many times, you'll hear us having the screen read back to us so we can proofread documents. Also, again, it's a great learning tool for foreign languages, for beginning readers, where you can record their voice, and you can also play their voice back as a text to audio. Snagit is a commercial version of a screen capture software that captures both still and videos. I use it almost every day. It's a great product. It's not real expensive, and it's very easy to utilize. Some of the screenshots during this presentation were created with Snagit. And Cam Studio is an older version of Camtasia, but it's now free, and there's some more available. So let's go on to number 12. Probably one of the most important things you need to learn, and you're going to need to teach your students, is how to do effective advanced web searching. So I have a whole page of resources available that I will quickly show you here. And this page has information on searching. There's a variety of things. There's also a diagram, which I utilized on my previous webinars on web searching, called recursive web searching, that gives you a little flow chart for doing web searching. Or if you're more the language type of person and you don't really care for charts, here's a very verbal version of the same thing. So there's a lot of resources. I just want to mention one at the bottom down here. There's a list of 234 different websites available to you for searching. Now you might say, well, I get everything I want with one search tool. Well, if you're in the rut of just using one particular search tool, whether it's Google or Bing or whatever it might be, you're missing out, because there's some very specialized search engines that can do special types of searches. For example, one is called TinEye. TinEye lets you actually take an image and upload that image and then have it search the web for that image. So it's not searching for a description of the image, but actually looking for an image that matches that. Another one that I really like is Wolfram Alpha. It's a computational tool that can give you statistics on a variety of different things, such as different countries, different types of industries, etc. So there's a whole section on searching that I have available. Searching is sort of one of my fun things that I like to do. So I've given you a number of resources for both helping you to learn how to search better, but also for helping you to have your students learn how to be better searchers. Our number 13 item, as we approach the end here, are apps. And there are just so many apps available for every type of device out there. A couple years ago, I think the word of the year was apps. And I'm using Chrome right now, and there's a ton of Chrome web apps available that you can utilize. There's also Chrome web extensions that work similar to apps, but they're a little bit smaller type of program, and they're available as Android apps for your Android device. iApps available for your Apple devices. I've given you a link here to a section on Google Tools for Special Needs that Eric Kurtz, my partner, has done, and it's an excellent area to find out about utilizing some of these add-ons, extensions, and apps for special needs students. And then a site here called Mindshift gives you reviews of apps. They call it apps that rise to the top, and I think they do it about once a year. They go out and they do a search of what type of apps teachers are using and what are the best in their fields. So I've given you 2 screens with 7 different connections here for some apps. This 33 digital skills is an interesting list of different types of tools that you might want to be able to utilize. They've actually shrunk it down to 20 now. They've combined some of the categories. So when you click on the link that says 33, don't be surprised when you see only 20 appear. And then I have some additional sites here with Android apps for teachers and students. I have some available with iPad apps and so forth. Now, what I've also done is I've also set up a place where you can share your thoughts and complete a short survey on what apps you think teachers can benefit from. So if you follow this little link of tiny.cc/faveapp, it'll just go to a Google form and allow you to submit some of your favorite apps and extensions. Then along with that, I have another little survey just saying, what type of apps, what type of tools do you think I should be including in future versions of the Stocking the Teacher's Essential Toolbox? And again, it's just a little form you can fill out to give me some suggestions on things I might want to include next time. So again, both of those are available as hyperlinks to Google Forms where you can complete them and give me some information on your use of apps, extensions, etc. in education. We're approaching the end here, and now we're going to get to the all-in-one tools. You have a screwdriver, you have a wrench, you have a pair of pliers, but sometimes you need a tool that you can carry around in your pocket that does just about everything. And I'm a very big fan of the Swiss Army knife. Some of you may like the little Workman foldable devices, but it's great to have something you can do a lot of things with. Well, the same thing is available with some of the websites I'm going to show you here. And the first one is free stuff. Everyone loves free stuff, and I have put together a website that is a wide variety of free stuff. We'll just follow the link here and I'll show you how it works. It has free ebooks, audiobooks, podcasts, study guides, online courses, educational videos. This is actually an embedded Google spreadsheet, so when you look at it, you won't see the edit part. I only see that because I'm the owner of this document. But what you will see is across the top, each of these is a separate worksheet from the spreadsheet, and each of them brings you to a specific category. So right now I'm in educational videos. If I want to jump back to ebooks, I can jump back to ebooks. The other thing I can also do is I can use these column headings to sort in order if I want to sort by alphabetical order for any of these different areas. So what each page looks like, it has the site, it lists what the site does, and the site is hyperlinked so you can go there. And you'll notice that there's quite a few sources of free ebooks out there. Also books that are out of copyright. Most of the classics are available as free ebooks. So if you want to read a novel with your class, chances are there's a lot of them out there that you can read for free. Now, some of these are in PDF format. Some are designed for specific book readers, such as the Amazon Fire or the Kindle or the Nook, etc. A lot of them are available for a variety of things. A lot of them are PDFs that you can just open on your computer. So you notice that we have a huge amount of resources available for free books. Some are textbooks, some are the different fiction books, nonfiction, a whole variety of different types of literature available to you on the web as free ebooks. And the same sort of thing with audiobooks. We have tons of those. And I know a lot of you might have had a service before where you utilized educational videos where your school had to pay for the service. Well, there's a lot of sites out there that have free ones available. And being my district was all about free that I was at before, I put together a whole list. I think I have over 50 here. Let's see, over 60, maybe over 70. So there's about 75 different sites with a wide variety of online videos. Or as I think of them back in my school days, film strips. So that brings back some memories. So these are all free items available that I put together on my website. Now, this website I keep going to is the place that I have all of these resources. This is the home page for it. It's a Spark Technology Integration resource site, so I call it STIR for short. And you notice that I have some links here to some of the major areas. And here's the free books link. This is a site that's not only designed for teachers, this is a site designed for you to utilize with your students also. So the searching section is here just as I showed you earlier. There's news and media, so if you want to find out about national media, international media, etc., you can go through there. We already talked a little about the educational news. And then I have some sections that are more designed toward teachers. There's a whole section on curriculum and assessment, and then 12 literacies. And when you go to the 12 literacies, you'll see that there are a variety, some of which are still under construction, some of which have a lot of materials. So, for example, the media literacy one has quite a bit of materials there. But if you know of any materials that you think would be good for these pages, please just drop me an email for my contact information, and I would consider placing it on one of my 12 literacies page under the appropriate category. And these are growing all the time. I just did a lot of work on the historical one over the last week's break, so I'm always adding to these. Section to the right here is on resources, and two pages I really want to show you. I'm going to first jump to the teacher's resource because that's what we're talking about today. So this is a whole set of web links that are designed for teacher resources. And notice the same little logo that we had on our slide today. This page, when I created it, actually gave me the idea of doing this webinar. So there's a lot of things here. I'm just going to point out a couple real quick. There's a lot of Google Apps things up here, some Edmodo things over here. But there's also some things here that you might be looking for: mind mapping, diagramming, charts, flowcharts, etc. This is a list of both free and commercial products, both online, installable products. There's a lot of them there. There's a whole page on timeline and chronology software, and then a whole other variety of resources. We're going to talk about Ditch the Textbook in just a moment here. But you'll notice that there's a lot of teacher resource sites here for a wide variety. For example, many of you may not know that all of the NOVA series from PBS are available as HD videos for free that you can show with your students, And we have some more here. I'm going to go back to the home page, and I'm going to just pop in here real quick, because at the bottom I have a big link called Learn Something New Every Day. And this is something you may want to share with your students, and you may want to do yourself. So any day that your students feel bored this summer or on break or anytime you want them to work independently, you can send them to this site, and they can learn about computer coding, electronics, arts, reading, dance, music, the art of manliness, woodworking, etc., ending up with at the bottom some of my favorites, and that's cooking. So there's over 75 different sites for you to learn something new every day, and these are great for independent work with your students. So let's flip back to our presentation here for a moment. Again, that's all available at tiny.cc/stirweb. Now, just in case you don't have enough resources yet, I've provided a page with 24 links to teacher resource sites. A lot of these have lesson plans, they have videos, they have free materials available, they have worksheets, you name it, it's probably here. One of the things I think is very important is if we're preparing students for next generation assessments, we need to start using next generation instructional techniques. And one of those I really strongly suggest is using simulation. So I have a list here of over 200 science simulations. So instead of talking about the 5 simple machines, go to the garage that lets you operate the 5 simple machines online. You could either have your students doing it on individual computers or something you could show on your projections screen in front of the class. So there's a wide variety here of websites. They're all hyperlinks. They all take you out to sites that have multiple links on them. So that, for example, there's over 200 links right here. So I'd say if you go to all these links and go to all the links on those links, you're probably talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000. And because you watched this webinar today, you're now required to do that. So plan your summer vacation accordingly. And again, this is just a picture of the StirWeb. Then I have a little poster for you that you might find inspirational. It's called Stop Just Talking About 21st Century Skills. It's time to be doing them. And I have a link here so you can print out a copy of this poster, and you're more than welcome to provide it to a colleague. You can just leave it on their desk anonymously if you'd like. But it's a whole nother talk that I'm not going to give today. So I have a session here for questions. And again, hopefully some of you may fill out questions or contact or email me. Before we leave, I mentioned I was going to show you the Ditch the Textbook site. And on the Ditch That Textbook site, you can download a PDF ebook of 101 practical ways to ditch the textbook. And it talks a lot about things that you can do very inexpensively. It's also a blog. If you go to the blog every day or every week or so, there's a new topic about teaching with free resources and moving beyond the simple textbook and providing a wide variety of materials to your students. And here's what the book looks like that you can get. So there's a lot of things, including Teach Like a Pirate Day, which might be a lot of fun, using Padlet, using Kahoot. And these are all things I didn't even have time to talk about today. These online apps or websites that are really good for utilizing in your class. So give some of these a try. I've just been playing around with Kahoot recently, and it's sort of a blast to do. It lets you use any type of online device to sort of have like a trivia game going on in your room where there's a countdown and students pick answers, and it can be done with phones, it can be done with tablets, it can be done on computers. So there's a whole variety of ways to utilize it. I mentioned Edmodo. This is what Edmodo looks like if you've not seen it before. The one thing I would really like, if you're interested, please feel free to go to my page and then ask to create a connection to me, and I'd be happy to connect to you as a fellow educator, and that can be the beginning of your professional learning network. Edmodo has teacher-created groups for almost every subject area imaginable. And if you don't find one that meets your needs, you can create your own. So I maintain a list of 8 groups that I run myself, everything from 12 literacies for today's students to spreadsheets across the curriculum. I think you might find many of these very helpful as part of your professional learning network, and also find them useful in your day-to-day instruction. So again, I welcome you to go to these. Before we finish today's webinar, I'll put my contact information up on the screen. So I'd like to remind you that all the resources for today's webinar, if you're watching this as a recording, are available at tiny.cc/SPARCC211. So tiny.cc/SPARC211 has all the materials for today's webinar on stocking the essential toolbox for today's teacher. Also, while you're there at the site, please think about signing up for our Sparklines newsletter. That will keep you up to date on any type of upcoming professional development we're going to be having. It also tells you about different conferences in our area. So if you're in the Ohio area, you'll also find information there. So again, I'd like to thank you for joining